Hey friends, welcome to another episode of the 10 Laws Podcast with East Forest. I'm on the road, so I'm actually recording this little intro on my phone, hence the maybe different sound, lower resolution, whatever it is, but I just finished the US West tour. We played in Austin last night. It was an amazing experience. The tour itself, I'm still sort of decompressing, of course, and wrapping my head around the whole thing because I was just trying to be in the heart space the whole time. And I will give you a full episode where we'll tell you all the stories and ideas and revelations that happened on the tour. But thank you to everyone who came. We had, I think, well over 4,000 people who showed up for these different ceremony concerts, which is really astounding and amazing given that I just know they're special events. You know, it takes a lot to come in there and dive in with such vulnerability and probably not knowing fully what we were getting into. And it was just so beautiful across the board, all 15 dates. I sure hope we can do more of them in the future and come to the East Coast of the United States and other places in the world, but more on that soon and more on the tour soon. I need to take a few days to kind of land. We're here in Austin, Texas for the holiday, Rada and I, and then I'll tell you more. But this week, my brother Trevor Hall, he's also was on tour at the same time, and 5 years ago, I was on tour with him. We did about 30 dates throughout the U.S. and Canada, so it felt like a really fitting time to resurrect a podcast we shared together for the Best of this week release. And I really, really enjoyed this podcast with Trev because I was at his house and we were in Boulder, Colorado, and we were in his little room where he makes a lot of music at the time. And it was just a great, great drop-in. And you might not have heard this one. It was released quite a while ago, and so it seemed like the great timing to bring it back to life, especially this week of Thanksgiving here in the States, a time of gratitude. And I have so much gratitude for our community and for everyone who supported me in the past, for my family, for my partner Rada, just for being able to walk this walk together. So thank you to everyone also on the council on Patreon who is able to come to the shows as well. It's a great way to support this podcast, patreon.com/eastforest. We had a really beautiful Journey Space online event. We're going to do another special one on December 17th. I'm doing a live stream for the solstice with my good friend Peter Broderick. Is coming all the way in from Ireland. It's going to be, oh my God, it's going to be so magical. I can't wait to do a long form medicine's journey ceremony style live stream from the studio. It's been a while since we've done that. It's a big endeavor. That's December 17th. And that's going to be a Journey Space event as well. So you can watch live on YouTube Live, but you can also go deeper in community with Journey Space, journeyspace.com, with our live facilitators. So it should be awesome. We're also going to do a flash merch sale for some of the, we had some t-shirts and hoodies and stuff, really cool from the tour, and some of them have the tour dates on them. We're going to be selling those hopefully really soon at a special rate for everyone on the newsletter. So if you're not on the newsletter, get on it, and could make a really great little gift for your friends and take the last pieces of merchandise from the tour before they're gone. All right. Well, let's get into this wonderful conversation with our dear friend, Mr. Trevor Hall.
Our minds give us clouded perceptions.
So I just sent you... Actually, you chose the song. Let's start there. Why did you choose that particular track? What gravitated you to that? Or was it just sort of there was melody there, right, or space, or because the others didn't? Or...
Right. I don't really have maybe a logical explanation. I think obvious, not to get too...
You can nerd out on it.
Not to get too nerdy outy.
Yeah.
But, music is vibration, obviously, and the reason I love music is that I'm not thinking logically, and that it's based off of feeling, and I think I just went through all the songs, that.
Oh, I sent you all of them?
Well, you sent me maybe like 5 or 6, I think, but I just went through all of them and just kind of picked a few that it was just like, what can I provide something on this? Does it make sense? Or I really like this song, but I don't think I can serve this song. I think it's either done or what I have in mind maybe won't fit this song, Mm-hmm. So it was more of just kind of like a thing of going through them and just seeing which one spoke to me the most and which one I think that I could actually provide something on. I think that, what is it called again? Mind karma?
Mind karma.
Mind karma, yeah.
When he says that line, your karma is your mind, which always made me think of
right.
It's a trippy statement.
I think this project too, just it being special with Ram Dass, I was also feeding off of his vibe and what he was talking about and what I felt connected to, I guess, at that moment. And that Mind Karma one was just the one that I was like, okay, I feel like I can do something here.
Do you remember your process at all of actually like when you were like, I'm going to pick up a guitar or my voice and like, what you went through, if you had any process of like what worked or didn't work, or just you can talk through like your private process?
Yeah, it was definitely like a harder process than normal. I think.
Were you alone or?
Yeah. I was. I'm usually always alone when I'm writing or stuff's coming through, but I think this process was harder for a few different reasons. One, that Ram Dass is like one of, my OGs, and it was just kind of being like, whoa, this is happening, with Ram Dass, and I want to do this justice, right? That was kind of the first thought that was going through my mind. The second thought was, how do I provide something that serves what Ram Dass is saying and not like take away from it? Because at first I was kind of like, oh, like I'm gonna like write some words. I'm gonna write some words for this, and I'm gonna like come up with like a verse. It's kind of like when somebody asks you to guest on a song, it's usually what you do. You write a verse, and like that's that. And then I realized, this is not a normal song. This is not a normal, I guess, like way of collaborating, because this is a meditation, and I wanted to do something that served the meditation, that blended into the song, rather than it being like, I guess, like featuring Trevor Hall, like, doing some like verse. Which it is, right? Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, where it's like, I'm going to write this like verse, because I didn't want, because obviously what Ram Dass is, what he's speaking is so powerful. I didn't want to kind of add any other like thoughts to like his space, I guess. So that was kind of going through my head, and it took me a while to like, I didn't like pick the song and then like come up into my room and record it, like I picked the song, I listened to it, a day went by, I listened to it again, a couple more days went by, I really tried to like, okay, what am I going to do here?
Did you record other things you didn't use?
No, I just kind of went from, I had thought about it a lot before. So I kind of, when I started, I had a little bit of a clear vision of what I wanted to do to like serve.
Do you tend to record quickly when you record?
It depends. I think this one, I really was being like kind of a perfectionist and really wanted to like make sure it was perfect for not only you, but Ram Dass and the whole project. It was more for me just like, just trying to like find that balance. Whereas like I said, on another song, somebody asked you to like sing a verse, you're like, cool, I'm going to write this verse and I'm going to, spit these lyrics, It wasn't like that on this. It was a much deeper process of just trying to serve the track and make the meditation, I guess, serve the meditation of what he was saying.
You chose, so you ended up singing a mantra, right?
Yeah.
Why a mantra, and why that particular mantra?
I think what happened for me was the first thought came of like, I don't want to sing a verse on this because I don't want to add anything to what Ram Dass is saying. He's saying enough powerful things here, like I didn't want to like complicate things. So that was the first thought that entered. Then it was like, well, if you're not going to do that, then what are you going to do? And at first I thought, well, maybe I'm just going to like come up with this harmony part that's kind of like a choir in a way, to kind of serve what he was saying, et cetera, et cetera. And then, writing music or singing music or whatever, like I said earlier, is not really a mental process for me, or I try not to make it. It's about feeling. And as I was kind of recording those harmonies and going through the song, that mantra just popped up, and I thought, okay, this is what's going to work here. I have like, what do they call it where you like see colors when you like hear music?
Well, synesthetic.
Synesthesia, right.
Senses switch.
Yeah.
In a way.
So like.
You know who else has that?
Oh.
She says Pharrell.
Okay, well, hey, maybe I'm the next Pharrell. Shoot.
Your next producer.
But for me, like every mantra, every name of the spirit or whatever you want to say has a different color. It has a different energy, it has a different vibe. I mean, it's obviously all coming from one energy, but there's different aspects to each name, for me at least. Yeah. And when I was listening to the song, it was presenting me with a certain color, and I wanted to, I guess, match that color vibrationally, and the holy mantra, of Om Namah Shivaya was really just what I saw, visually, not only sonically, to match the energy of the track,
What does it mean? Because it's Shira, Jairam, JJ. No, wait, I'm thinking of the other song you did that on. That was a reminder.
Yeah,
sorry. This one you did.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Om Namah Shivaya is obviously a really popular mantra. They call it the Panchataraka mantra, Pancha, because it's 5 syllables, the holy 5 syllables or whatever. But, there's many ways that you can translate it, obviously. Om is the first sound, obviously. The vibration, everything comes from one sound. Mm-hmm. Nama is I bow to, right? Mm-hmm. And Shivaya, I mean, Shiva is a god, a form of divinity in the Indian tradition. The first yogi, kind of the destructive aspect of creation, brings new life. You can kind of translate it that way. But I think the word Shiva actually means like that which is good. Like I bow to that which is good or goodness. And there's so many different ways to translate it. I personally don't like to try and like logically translate mantras because I feel like they're like not of the mind. Yeah.
Well, that's what's just interesting. Well, that's interesting because the song's called Mind Karma.
Right.
It's talking about the mind being your karma.
Right.
And then the interplay of like this mantra against that.
Right.
And actually weaving.
Right.
There's 3 main elements I see in that song. It's the mantra that you put in, his words, and that flute.
Yes.
Which to me ended up being like this really cool thing, like almost like thoughts.
Right. Right. Yeah.
In between the things.
Absolutely.
Really artfully.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that was a really cool way that turned out.
Right. That was another aspect of the song too, because the flute was such an integral part of the track. I was also trying to play off that flute not overshadow the flute. And
Sheila Bringy, who lives in Boulder.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
so beautiful.
She plays like harp, plays everything.
Yeah,
Sings.
it was so beautiful. So there was those elements of the track where it's not only Baba's words, but the flute and trying to weave my way through all that, you know. It was interesting, like hearing Baba's words about the mind and the mind being our karma and the mind spinning out, you know, I guess the cycle of things, you know. And I think ultimately from like a spiritual aspect, there's the aspect of getting out of your mind or calming the waves of your mind, stilling the mind, whatever you want to say. And I feel like the mantra is is one of the most popular or you know, in India, no matter what's school or tradition or saint or whatever it is, you know, all of them celebrate the divine name or the mantra because it subdues the thought waves. It takes the breath out of our thoughts, right? And we can kind of step into that witness aspect, I guess. And I think it just natural for me. It was just like a natural flow to sing a mantra there, you know, because again, I didn't want to add any additional thoughts or anything to what Ram Dass was saying, but how am I going to, how am I going to serve the track and sing something that adds to it? And the divine name adds to anything, everything.
And Ram Dass, it kind of makes sense too, because he's into a lot of mantra and kirtan.
Absolutely, yeah. It's that's always been my main practice too, is the repetition of the name. And I always, you know, it's there's so many amazing things that saints and people say about the name, like Maharaji, who's, you know, Ram Dass's.
It's just tripping me out though. The story I just told you, and now over your shoulder.
Yeah, Maharaji's looking
at the left shoulder instead of the right shoulder.
He's everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, Maharaji said a beautiful thing about the divine name. He said, you know, the divine name, you know, repetition of the divine name bring, you know, whether in anger or lethargy, whether happy or sad like this, the repetition of the name brings out bliss all around, you know, and on being thus enlightened, there's no room for any misgivings, that's what he said, you know.
There's no room for any misgivings.
And Maharaji, you know, wherever he was, he traveled with kirtaniyas, you know, these people that pretty much sang the divine name 24 hours of the day.
Really?
Know? Yeah, no matter where. He from Vrindavan, and they would just sing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare, like all day long, you know. And Maharaji's main thing was Ram, you know, repeat the name. And they said that when sitting with him, you could always see his thumb. You know, he was doing japa, the repetition of the name on his hands all the time. Ram, 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 Ram. You know, so, you know, we can extol the name, you know, praise, I guess, the name, like, you know, infinitely for all time. And so for that track specifically, I just, you know, if you're going to add anything, you might as well add the divine name, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well,
it's sort of like, then you've got that's sort of like the divine name mantra, this super consciousness thing going, and then Ram Dass just representing the intellectual idea of the mind and thinking the battle, and then that flute thing's kind of the musical representation. I never thought about it that way. That's actually kind of an interesting way it panned out.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting that he's talking about the mind and the karma, and then having something like the name within the track that is pretty much the thing that they say, all the saints, and say that it subdues our karma. You know, it changes our karma.
Wow.
It go, you know, because, you know, we are what we think, you know, in a way. I think Bob was kind of talking about that, and Sri Ramakrishna has a beautiful quote where he says, the mind is like a cloth, right? And if you take that cloth and you dip it in red dye, everything's going to be red. If you take that cloth and you dip it in blue, everything's going to be blue. So we want to dip the mind into the highest vibrational thoughts that we can, because then all we're going to see is spirit, consciousness everywhere. We're going to see oneness, So that's, I think, one of the ideas behind the name and changing our mind karma, I guess, as Ram Dass is talking about, is kind of rewriting, reprogramming, our minds to only see that vibration of pure consciousness in everyone and everything, It's funny, I remember there's a Maharaji story where they were asking him, I've done so much japa, I've repeated the divine name so much and nothing's happening, and he's like, you don't know it's happening, right? Just do it, He said these yogis and saints have been repeating the divine name for thousands of years, and you do it for a couple of years and you expect a result. That to me shows how much our mind karma, how deep it runs, how thick it is, and how much we've, I guess, wrapped it up in other thoughts and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And how powerful the divine name is, we don't even know what's happening, when we're repeating it, we don't know what's happening in our minds and in our bodies and vibrationally and all this stuff. But we have to trust the ones that have gone before us, like all these saints and yogis and realized beings and shamans and, normal people, whatever it is, that have been doing these practices. They're the kind of proof, Do
you think there's a Western translation, in a sense? Do you think it was important that if you're repeating, say, Ram, there's obviously a lineage with that in India, and so it also has more of a actual cultural power in your own brain if you're from that culture. Let's say you're not, right? Do you think there's is there another way you should be doing it, or is it does not matter?
Meaning what?
Well, I understand the idea, right? Just even from a cognitive behavioral standpoint, just training your brain, right, and that opens certain energy portals because your thoughts are going a certain direction. Right. But what if the word Ram has no meaning to you? It just doesn't have, you don't even know what that means.
Maharaji also answered that, He said, and I may botch this, but he said something along the lines of, you're repeating your fake Rams, right? And he was like, just keep repeating it and one day you'll say the real Ram, And you'll understand. A riddle, but that sounds like but it's statement. It's it's like one day you'll understand, and that's what I think he was saying too. Is even in anger or lethargy, or if you don't feel any, it's not about feeling something. I feel like that's we want to feel something. We want to feel enlightened and all this stuff, whatever. But it's something deeper. It's like a selfless thing. It takes you out of yourself. It takes you out of your own story, And I think that we want a translation, right? Especially us Western folks, we want a translation because we want to. We're so obsessed with explaining things and understanding things and knowledge because it gives us a sense of control. And the things that we can't explain, things that we don't understand, we push away because we know we're not in control. We don't like to admit that we're not in control. And I think that's one of the powerful things about the mantra, is that we can't adequately define the mantra. I mean, we can say a few things. Oh, Ram was a god and he had a bow and an arrow and all this stuff. But is that really what Ram is? We don't know, And I don't think it's something that I know what it is now. It means this. I personally don't like that route. I don't want a meaning. I think about way too much other shit.
How could it have a meaning in a sense?
Exactly. Yeah. In my mind, that's my mind. But, you know, you say, oh, Ram is light, or Ram is peace, or Ram is whatever, you know. I just try to listen, you know, and not understand, because I'm so obsessed with understanding everything else, and it drives me completely bonkers and mad. Yeah. And that way, I think with the track, it was so interesting for me to, number one, like just gravitate to that track, because here Baba is talking about the mind and the mind spinning our karma, and oh man, you know, every thought we have is either what they call coming from our prarabdha karma, which is stuff in the past, or we're spinning a new cycle forward. And you're like, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm trapped in this freaking cycle. And the only way I know how to get out of this cycle is by repeating that, the purest vibration I can, the stainless vibration that has no karma, you know.
Is that why you put it into your own music sometimes?
Yeah, I think.
Or is it not really thought through?
I think it. There's a lot of reasons why I put it into my own music, because I personally believe in the power of the divine name.
It's like transmitting that energy out there, not beyond yourself.
I believe that the divine name carries the purest or most intense vibration, whether we feel it or not. And anything, any place or anywhere that it's spoken or even repeated mentally, it changes that atmosphere. And that's why, and music is obviously super sacred to me, and so why not put the name on? You know, I know there's this amazing Hawaiian auntie named Auntie Pua, and she's a really good she's a really good guide for so many people, Nako and me, and her and her daughter Havane. They're kind of the main people behind the movement of We Are Mauna Kea, which is the sacred mountain on the Big Island, right? And they're trying to build this big telescope on top of this mountain, and they've fought off the telescope company, and now the telescope company is coming back, and they're going back up the Mauna again and standing strong, right? But the reason I was telling the story was because she told me, I don't know if it was on her daughter's CD or like or something else, I forget, but she recorded herself chanting their divine chants, the Hawaiian chants, right? And she recorded it, right? And then they took that file or track and they put it under her daughter's music, and they just turned it all the way down. And she was saying that it doesn't matter if you can hear it or not, it's the vibration of that space and that sound and that energy that's under the track. So you don't even hear it, it's on mute.
Right.
But it's that space.
So it's not even like it's hard to hear.
It's not there. It's not there audibly, but they turned it all the way down and they put that space or that silence under all of her daughter's music. That's cool. I was like, man, that's amazing, And that's, I think, a perfect example of like the power of the name and those vibrations.
I had a friend who did these not meditations, like energy work with me. But he'd record them. He'd say, I want you to listen to these later. It's like, keep doing the work.
Right.
But it was silent. So, he'd ask me a question, and there'd be an hour of just like he's doing something in his house.
Right.
And then later I'd get this MP3 and there'd be nothing there. Right. And I'd be thinking to myself,
right,
this is an interesting process.
Right. Yeah, for sure. That's very interesting. That's very interesting.
Can I ask you another question about, or just a couple more questions?
Yeah. Chilling.
I'm noticing obviously Maharaji.
Right.
And how we were talking earlier before we recorded this about sort of his role in this whole process with this record and sort of the deep guidance he's been providing.
Right.
I'm just curious, I'm sure you have a story of how he came into your life, because I'm sure like me, you didn't start that way.
Yeah.
And I know for most people it's sort of an interesting way that it blossoms into your life.
I love hearing how people,
For me it was a picture.
How that being, comes into one's life or changes,
You read the books, like there's the Love Everyone, the newer one, that's stories about him, and that was an older one.
Yeah, so the my favorite one, I guess you can say, or what really like hit me was, I was in boarding art school in high school in California. This place called Idlewild. It's a beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful school, but it's also a beautiful place. And I became really good friends with this kid named Sam Marcus, who's Raghu's younger brother.
Yeah.
Right. So we became really good friends, and we were like recording songs together. He was like a rapper.
Didn't he help you with Lime Tree?
Yeah, he co-wrote the song.
Like way back?
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. We were best friends. Just huge inspiration in my life. Really, he was.
I met him.
Did you meet him?
Well, he came to the show in San Diego.
Oh yeah,
or
yeah,
something,
yeah,
right?
yeah. He was there. He came with his wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, he invited me into his room one night and to like spend the night in his dorm room, and like we were gonna make music all night, whatever. And he only had one picture on the wall, and it was Maharaji. And I remember just looking at the picture and just being like, I know that person.
Do you remember which picture?
I don't. I wish I did.
Wasn't that one?
No. No. This was given to me by my teacher. Actually, it was one of the first pictures that my teacher in high school, who was also a devotee of Maharaji.
But it didn't. Well, it's
Unrelated.
the same period,
Unrelated.
Right?
Yeah. But it was interesting that like
twice.
a teacher, there was a devotee of Maharaji as well. But I remember just seeing the photo, and I was like, who is that? Is that your grandfather? Like, and he said, no, he's an Indian saint that my brother and dad were with in India. And look, dude, I'm from South Carolina. Like, I don't Indian saint. Like, I'm like, what is that? You know? And he started telling me, and he told me about his miracles and all this stuff. And then he brought out this book, Miracle of Love, which was compiled by Ram Dass.
Yeah, it's the first big one of stories, right?
Yeah. That's specifically, I think, about Maharaji.
It's all stories of Maharaji, yeah.
And I just stayed up the whole night. I didn't go to sleep, and I just reading stories. But that was it. Like, my whole DNA just changed, everything. But there was a book called By His Grace. That is a book by Dada Mukherjee, who was one of Maharaji's main devotees. Mm-hmm. And that was the book that I was like, this is it. Like, I don't know, anything really, but this book, the feeling, the culture, because he was an Indian man, an Indian devotee, and he's just kind of writing about how Maharaji came into his life. I just knew. I was like, this is it. This is it. And it was pretty interesting. That was in 2003, I think, 2004. And that book, I read it 1,000,000 times. It was just, that was it. I don't know. I not only because it was so intimate with Maharaji, but the way Dada was explaining things. And
where was your career in 2004?
I was in high school. I was writing songs.
So just starting.
Yeah, I was writing songs. We were kind of like talking about record deals and stuff, but like all that stuff was not really happening yet, right?
It's interesting timing.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the craziest thing was, that was 2004. Then 2007, January, I went to India for my first time. And I went with a few monks from a temple in...
What spurred that?
Well... I fell in love with Maharaji, and I couldn't explain it, and I didn't need to explain it. I didn't give a fuck what anybody thought.
Yeah.
I was like, I love this man, and there's no questioning about it, and he loves me, and this is the surest thing I know, and nobody can tell me otherwise. It was just this super clear thing. I knew I was his, and I knew he was mine. I didn't give a shit. I didn't look on him as like God, or like I didn't look on him as like some saint. I looked on him as my Baba.
Do you have dreams or anything like that? Any interaction?
I mean, a few, but I'd rather not like go into that, a little bit. But there was just no doubt for me, right? And because I loved him so much, I wanted to love what he loved. I wanted to know everything I could about him, which is hard because he's an extremely mysterious being, right? But because Maharaji, chanted Ram, I want to know what Ram is. because Maharaji, they said Maharaji was like an incarnation of Hanuman, and I wanted to know Hanuman. Because Maharaji was from India, I wanted to know about India. And that's what started it. And I started, whatever, continuing on the path. But it wasn't even a path for me. It was just because I love Maharaji. Like, I don't know, what path am I on? I don't know. But I loved him, and that was it. That's all that mattered, And so the whole way I got to India was because I wanted to know where the land, he was from and all this stuff, whatever.
So he's your gateway.
Total gateway, the doorway. And the crazy thing for me, one of the highest moments of my whole life was we were in Allahabad, where Dada, who wrote this book, by his grace, lived. He was from Allahabad. And we were staying in this ashram, our ashram in Allahabad. And I knew the address of Dada's house because it's in the book, 4 Church Lane. But Allahabad's a big city. I don't know, but I thought, is it possible that I could go to Dada's house? In my mind, I'm thinking this, because Maharaji was still this Well,
it's what I was telling you too, the same kind of idea, you're on the outside.
Yeah, it's a story. It's a story,
exactly.
And it's could this even be real? But I don't know. There's all these thoughts.
Yeah.
And we were with these monks in Allahabad, and I had mentioned, 4 Church Lane, and this one monk says, yeah, well, no problem. We'll get a car right now. We'll go. I'm like, what? You don't understand. This is my everything. I can't, And I remember we all piled in this Jeep, and we were driving through the neighborhood, and I remember we turned on Church Lane, and I just started uncontrollably weeping. I don't think I've ever cried like that in my life. I wasn't sad, I wasn't happy, I was just weeping.
How old were you?
I was 20 years old. And I remember we pulled up to Dada's house, and there was, his niece was on the porch, I remember, with her husband and a woman named Ashoka Didi, who was with Maharaji, who I think was Dada's cousin, I think, or something like this. And I can't even describe it in words. I remember everybody got out of the car, and I couldn't get out of the car. I was trying to control myself. I was I have no idea why I'm crying this hard, And I remember I got out of the car, and I fell to the ground.
Prostration style?
Yeah, because it was dirt, whatever, in front of the house. And I remember I just kept touching the dirt, thinking Maharaji walked on this dirt. And I had these Ziploc bags with me because if you're in a holy place, I was told you can take a little, and I was just taking handfuls of dirt and putting it in this Ziploc bag.
That's the first thing you're doing.
Yeah, I'm just crying. Dude, I'm crying uncontrollably.
Collecting dirt.
Yeah, I couldn't even control myself. And the most amazing thing, and this is the thing about India, or just, I don't know, the way they treat people, is we just showed up at this person's home. Okay?
Yeah.
They have no freaking clue who we are.
Yeah, you're a white guy weeping and collecting dirt.
Yeah, they have no idea. They come to the gate. They open up the gate. I remember Dada's niece grabbed me by the hand and brought me right into the house and brought me right into Maharaji's room.
Wow.
And they keep in that house, they keep Maharaji's room exactly the way it was when Maharaji was there. So Maharaji's bed is there, his pictures of him all around, and I just fell on the mattress and just was sobbing. And I just knew, I was I just knew that, it's hard to explain.
And how does that manifest since then? I understand. I mean, I'm asking this sort of so you can speak to it, but the idea of having pictures of him and the role that plays in your life. I mean, what is that role? Do you see your work and your life somewhat in service to that, or guided, or is it more like an inspiration to you?
Well, it's definitely changed over the years, where I, in the beginning, I really thought of Maharaji as a person, you know. And I would kind of, I guess, like maybe like look on him as like a guardian angel almost, in a way, or somebody I could talk to and somebody I could think about and feel like protected or something like this. But then it started to change, you know. Maharaji started to become a space rather than maybe like a individual person. And at first that kind of freaked me out because I didn't want that. I wanted to have my Baba and and his blanket and like my guardian angel, and I could picture walking with him or whatever like this. But Maharaji started to become this space, almost this like vibration, where I wasn't even so much thinking of his body. It was almost starting to become like a feeling.
Right.
And the thing that I think is most powerful about Maharaji for me is, you know, we read so many stories where I think one of Maharaji's main like traits, I guess, you know, you could say, was that people would come to him and he would tell you everything you've ever done. And he would tell you everything about you and things that you never told anyone, you know. Ram Dass has a beautiful story about when he first met Maharaji where, you know, he told him this story about the night before he was thinking of his mother and, you know, nobody knew that. And Ram Dass said, you know, Maharaj, you knew everything about me, even the things that I didn't want anybody to know. And he still loved me, you know. And I think for me, that's the space that Maharaji represents. There is a space, you know, there is a being, there is a spirit, whatever you want to call it, that knows everything about us in the past, in the present, and knows everything that's going to happen in the future. And it is a completely, you can't even say neutral. It is a loving awareness, as Baba would say, right? I am loving
you
awareness.
Can't be outside that.
Yeah. And there's nothing to hide from. There's nothing to control, even, in a way. And if we could live in that space 24/7, imagine how different our lives would be. But we don't. We have mind karma. We remember and we forget, you know, and that's just the play of the divine, you know. But I think Maharaji now has kind of become more of a space rather than a particular person, or it's become more of a vibration. And to answer your question, like I think music is so powerful for me because that's when I feel closest to that space. That's when I feel like,
yeah, it makes sense.
You know, I'm like, I'm closest to that space, or like
and the music too is like, it's more non-literal.
Absolutely.
Like it's sort of, it can encompass more of that feeling,
right?
A broader feeling.
And that was the special thing about the song, is because, okay, well, I want to like, I want to bring that space or honor that space as best I can. So I don't want to sing a bunch of words and thoughts. I want to vibrate that space as best I can. And that's why I chose to sing the mantra rather than like come up with a verse like, yo, 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 I'm with Baba Ram Dass.
I can't picture you doing that. But
it would be funny if I sent you that. Like,
I would have probably been like, all right, now
I'll work on this. I'll see if it'll fit in.
No, what you sent was great. And what I thought was a good sign too is that I was able to, because I just sat down with it to try to mix it in. And very quickly.
Right.
I had a mix within like a couple hours.
Right.
And I was like, this works, I think. And I was like, okay, I'll sleep on it. I woke up and I was like, I'm going to send it to you.
Right.
And I was like, I think it's good. And I didn't really tweak much of anything. I was like kind of a one mix, just a couple of things. I didn't move it drastically.
Right.
I just made I introduced you at the beginning and messed around with your background. It It was easy.
Yeah.
Which is a good sign.
Yeah,
usually.
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes
fit
me
in
feel
really easily. And also that song for me, I felt like it was okay, but it was missing something and I didn't know what it was.
Right.
And then once you added in that new element of your stuff, it now had this like trifecta element and it just became much more dynamic
well, that
and
makes me
interesting.
happy.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the Maharaji stuff, it sounds like it's just more evolved in how it's come to be a part of your life, I suppose. It's kind of interesting then now knowing all that, like how it kind of comes back full circle and that this song even came into your beingness. And with Ram Dass.
Yeah, it's interesting because like
it's a bit of a trip. I knew some of this obviously.
Right,
but I didn't
right.
know that wasn't why.
Right.
I was like, oh, Trevor's. I was like,
right. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't. That's part of the thing too. Is like I almost couldn't believe it. You know, when I got the tracks and I was like, oh my god, like. Yeah. How did this happen? You know,
I don't know.
Maharaji.
Well, maybe I do know.
Yeah. But it was just kind of like, it was like, it totally rocked my world in a way. You know, it's just so crazy how things come full circle like that.
Yeah. And do you see like the music that you're creating on your own, like on a day-to-day basis, does it have that sense of devotion to it? Or is it you trying to just sort of not think about it too hard and
absolutely
just create what wants to be created? And
yeah, I mean...
in some people it's very intentional.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? For me, like, music is, even though maybe I'm not singing mantras and like all this stuff, music comes from that space.
Well, certainly the creation of it. I can sympathize.
And it comes from that space and it also goes back to that space. I always say from mother to mother because for me, it's a process of not thinking and getting out of the way and just listening. And these songs come through for me. And then what do? I just sing them right back. You know, that's that kind of dance, you know.
You write a lot, right?
A lot, yeah.
For me, it's about repetition.
Yeah.
You know, like just writing lots of things and not being too attached to it.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, here we go.
Right. I'm the same way. I mean, I don't try to be attached to anything. I'm not like, you know, at the beginning of an album, I'm not like, oh, I'm going to make an album.
Right.
And it's going to be about this. Right. You know, it's not that. It's just like songs come through and then the songs tell me what the album's going to be. And the songs tell me what the album's going to be about and what the album's going to be called. And it's just, for me, it's a process of just listening.
Do you tend to, like for me, I know it's easier for me to play or write stuff in the morning, you know, and it's like a monkey on my back. If I don't do it, I'm kind of thinking about in my head, like, I should probably play. And I feel better once I do it. The day kind of has meaning. Right. And the rest kind of like whatever. Right. For you, is it like that? Or are you more of it happens when it happens?
It's kind of happens when it happens for me, but like my sweet spot is definitely like 1 a.m.
Oh, night guy.
Yeah, because there's everything else is just not is gone, you know.
Right.
And the night brings a certain mysticism, I think, for me, where everything else is sleeping and I'm just listening to this other world that doesn't get paid attention to maybe so much.
Are you mostly working from guitar and voice like simultaneneously? Is that like your starting point?
No, it depends. It could be anything. Yeah. I mean, usually it's always the music comes first, though, because like I said, the music creates a vibe. The music creates an energy, a vibration that
so like riffs
determines the mood.
For me, it's like chord progressions.
Chord progressions are like. I could be on the guitar, I could be, you know, on my computer with like different synthesizers or pads or whatever. And
what do you use for your DAW or?
I use, I don't know what that
Logic
means.
Or?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Logic. I use Logic.
I don't know what it means either.
Yeah. I don't know, you know, for me, I'm a very much like hit record and just play. Like, I don't know.
Well, you did what you sent me. It sounded pretty good.
I mean, I can get by, you know, but I'm not in your area of like knowing how to mix and knowing like different microphones and different compressors and all that stuff. That's why Logic's good for me, because I just plug in my mic and...
So you kind of get the ideas down?
Yeah, I get the ideas down.
And then you tend to work with producers who are helping you, like...
Yeah, either like I'll bring my
demos,
demos, I make demos all the time, and I'll bring those demos to producers to refine, to maybe re-records the vocals on a nice mic or the guitars on a nice mic or stuff like that. That's kind of how it works.
I heard your demos, though, sound pretty much done. Are you adding in lots of other instruments and parts? Like, I want this little solo thing here, or is it more just pretty raw, like vocal guitar?
Yeah, it's pretty raw. I actually love the demos.
Yeah.
Well, I wish
heard demo-itis, where like you
yeah,
capture something and then it's like you're trying to recreate that.
Because I feel like there's a certain power to the vibration when that creative energy is just coming through. And sometimes you bring it to producers and you're like, yeah, but we got to re-record this because it's not like sonically there, and you're like, yeah, but like there's a sauce.
The improvisational element of the idea, like the moment where it's happening, is often the magic.
Yeah, that's for me the magic, you know. So for me, there's been a lot of times where it's like, I just want to release these demos. Like, screw it.
Have you ever?
I have. Yeah, I did an album.
Love it.
I did an album called Unpack Your Memories where we just used all the demos. And it was like a 5-song kind of EP. Yeah. And all that was recorded, on my laptop, know. And I didn't want the magic of the demos to be kind of taken away.
We should set you up with it wouldn't change your recording process or the difficulty, but it's like a nice preamp.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely God, I can't tell you how many times in my mind I'm like, I'm going to set up like my studio proper.
It wouldn't be that different.
No, but I mean, just like to have the space where like you have the computer, you have a nice preamp, you got a good mic, and that's it.
You don't need to re-record it.
Yeah, for me, it's just I haven't had the time. I want to get nice. I don't even have speakers in this house.
Are you serious?
No, I don't. I have a set of speakers downstairs that aren't even plugged in.
What the fuck?
That's just me, but I don't know. That I'm lazy. But I just have my headphones, and that's where I do everything.
Yeah.
So it's funny.
We both have nice headphones.
Yeah, there we go. But I definitely want to get there for sure.
And are you recording here?
Right here on this desk.
Where's your mic? Do you do it seated?
Yeah. Sit right here on the ground.
I've done that before too. I like sitting down and singing.
Something about sitting on the ground that just kind of...
Yeah.
I don't know, makes it happen for me.
Well, it's kind of interesting. It's sort of kirtan style.
Yeah.
This goes back to India again.
I just like to sit down and feel rooted, I guess.
Huh.
Yeah.
And do you know what kind of mic you're using?
Yeah, I have an SM7.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Those are pretty good. I don't know. I don't know what you have.
Should be under here somewhere. But, it's one of the big... And I record everything through that. My vocal, my guitars.
What's your interface?
I just have an Apogee Duet.
Oh, see, you've got a pretty clean system going on.
Yeah, but I want to have, I definitely want to get to a point, and have, proper speakers in here where I can play stuff for people, and, have maybe a computer that's just designated to...
Yeah, production.
So I don't have to
if you want a list and you want to get
I know who to call.
I
know who to call. Yeah.
Give you a list. Get this stuff.
I know who to call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to definitely have the proper desk and make it happen.
Yeah, you could treat this room. It's pretty dead because of the carpet, but you could add a little more treatment.
I record everything in here, man.
Interesting. Yeah. This is a pretty sacred space.
Yeah, and I like doing it. I like recording it where also I practice my sadhana.
Yeah, you got a lot of images in here.
Yeah.
Can you just run through who we're looking at?
Yeah, we have...
What's this?
That's a picture of Kali, the goddess Kali, who's...
it's intense.
Kind of my... what they would call maybe your Ishta Devata, your chosen deity. It's the Divine Mother. I'm big into the mother. As we can see here, we have Siddhima, a portrait of Siddhima, who is Maharaji's... main, I guess, sidekick, to put it lightly. And then this big portrait is of Holy Mother, who is the wife of Sri Ramakrishna, who is a great saint. And all these other pictures are pictures of things that inspire me. This is one of my favorite pictures.
That looks like the instrument.
Yeah, that's this instrument.
Just with a longer...
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Oh, that's what Krishna Das, I guess, was playing on this song.
So this is a picture of a baul, who's a very famous baul, and the bauls are a group that I am extremely inspired by. But this is a famous picture of Nabani Kepa, who was a Baal saint, and just his joy on his face.
Yeah, he looks pretty
It's,
in
I
ecstasy.
kind of look at it and like, this is my goal.
Yeah,
when
totally.
I'm playing
To be
music,
totally
to be
free.
lost, you know. And the photographer that took this was a very famous Bengali photographer, and he said he didn't want anything else in the picture except the sky,
Yeah,
because
it's cool.
a ball is as free as the bird, no boundaries. So, yeah.
But you don't know who the guy is. It's more like his.
No, he's a famous ball, Nabani Kepa. Yeah, he's a
okay.
very famous ball.
Very cool.
Yeah. He's passed, you know, obviously, but
And you have Maharaji.
yeah, I got Maharaji everywhere, and all the different saints and the people that inspire me. Pictures of the gods.
Is that Krishna?
No, this is Kali's on the left.
Oh.
In the middle is Lord Shiva, standing on top of the demon Ravana, subduing the ego, pretty much. And then on the right is Hanumanji, carrying the mountain that holds Sanjeevani herb, the life-giving herb. When they were in the war against Ravana, the whole army fell. Rama's army fell, and Rama's brother Lakshman fell. And he told Hanumanji to go get this life-giving herb on this holy mountain. So Hanumanji jumped into the air and flew there. When he got to the mountain, he forgot which herb it was, so he just picked up the whole mountain.
Yeah, that's what you do.
That's what you do, bro. So it's a famous form, I guess. Sankatamochan.
And then you have some tobacco. That looks like jungle tobacco.
Where is that?
On the floor.
Oh no, that's juniper.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like incense.
Yeah, juniper incense, yeah. And I have the Ganga Jal, holy water.
And what's the egg-like thing?
That's the Shiva Lingam. So it's one of the.
Is that really obvious? Am I supposed to know?
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
It's Shiva. That's kind of the form that Shiva's worshipped in. Is the cosmic egg, and in all over India, you know, there's Shiva lingams everywhere, and people go. One of the offerings is they pour water over the lingam and say their prayers, and it's actually an image of consciousness, you know, and where the lingam sits in the stand, I guess you could say, it's called the Gaudi Pitam, which represents the Divine Mother. So it's kind of the union, the divine union, a symbol of, I guess, totality.
It's in the center of the table.
Yes, and then the snake that is around the lingam, that's rising above the lingam, represents the Kundalini, the Shakti, the divine energy.
It's like the dual serpent DNA strand.
Yeah, pretty much. So I got all the vibes, man. You gotta have the juju.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, you got a lot of it going on here. Wow.
A lot of it's in boxes too. You know, this is just what I
pulled out.
Well,
it's good to change it up. Too.
Yeah. When we moved, but
very cool. Well, thanks, man. I know I got to get to sound check. So
yeah, I appreciate the letting me be a part of such a special project, and
our honor, Maharaji's grace.
Yeah, really.
So here we are.
And I hope that I hope a lot of people get a lot of benefit from it. It's really awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Jai Ma.
Rain, it be falling from a monsoon cloud. All of that water coming out of your mouth. What do we see? Where did we go? Darling, will we ever really know? Darling, will we ever really know? I could see the mountains written on your skin. They were telling me something of where you've been. I felt like we were meeting for the first time. But I think that I've known you for a long while. It's 'Cause I think that I've known you for a long, long while. I'm with you all of my days. 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 Rain may be falling from a mountain so clear. I could see the mountains written on your skin. They were telling me something weird. I could see the mountains written on your skin. They were telling me something weird. It felt like we were meeting for the first time. 'Cause I think that I've known you for a long, long while. I'm with you all of my days.